G'day, folks. It's Anthony Kilner here, editor of Supernal Magazine Australia, and we have another fantastic Supernal interview for you today. And the interview today is in line with issue 53, which is all about animal consciousness and the animal collective. And it is a ripper issue. It will be out very soon. And so helping me with today's interview is Shirley Sienna. Hello, Shirley. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. How's the weather up there in sunny country Victoria?
Getting ready to be hot.
Good. Yes, it's going to be warm down here today too.
Yeah,
So,
builds up. It's very different to being down on the peninsula. I'm acclimatising.
it would be very dry, much drier than down on the
Very. The kangaroos are all coming down. I was talking to the lady in one of the shops yesterday, and she showed me a photo just in the street down with a herd of them outside her house. There's all kangaroo droppings all outside, even in my corner now. And evidently they're just coming in everywhere, I guess because it's so dry.
Yeah, well, it is very dry, and we've got similar problems around here, which is in stark contrast to our guest, our special guest for today, in Sharon Lynn from Mystic Mouse over in the UK, who informed me the other morning it was -4 degrees. Now, I couldn't think of anything worse, but welcome, Sharon, to Supernal.
Thank you very much. It's not that far off that here now. It's 10 p.m, hence I've got my scarf and my woolly jumper on. It's just about getting below freezing, and apparently we're down to -2 again this evening. So
yeah, that's just a wee bit too chilly for me.
Is it snow as well? Does that mean it's snowed, or no, just freezing?
Crisp. So our kangaroos wouldn't like it over there, I don't think. They do get some cold weather here. So Sharon, thanks again for joining us. For our watchers out there in issue 53, we've managed to do a really lovely 6-page spread about you and your journey into, let's call it, animal consciousness in a lot of ways, where you've connected up with animals on a channeled level, you've connected on a heart level, and we know channeling comes from the heart anyway. However, it's that physical aspect, and you share your journey with us in an amazing way. And so for readers or watchers of this video, get into Supernal, which is just supernalmagazineaustralia.com.au, and have a look at issue 53, and really you'll see the passion that Sharon's brought to what this issue is all about. So this interview, though, is going to be a bit more fun and a bit more personal about some of your stories, because really you've had an amazing journey into that animal collective as a whole. So give us a little brief on who Sharon is for people that haven't seen the magazine yet, and then let's launch into some stories.
oh my days, do you know what? I've spent most of this week trying to figure out how to re-explain who I am and what I do, because I've just started networking over here again in the UK. So I mean, predominantly I'm a multi-potentialite. I'm a wearer of many hats, multi-dimensional, multifaceted. But yeah, I mean, I've been in the sort of the well-being, the spiritual woo-woo space, as we call it over here, for 25 odd years. Started out when I met my husband at a evening of mediumship, and yeah, just sort of went on from there, really. Started to talk to dead people that I didn't even know I could do, and then animals followed very quickly. And then rah-de-rah, here we are 25 odd years later with all sorts of things. Yeah, exactly. Crystal skulls. Yeah, that happened in, well, the first meeting with the crystal skulls, well, actually, it was in 2000. I remember just going into a crystal wholesaler and staring into the eyes of some crystal skulls on the shelf and thinking, these are intriguing. I wonder what these are all about. I'm going to have one of those one day. Didn't think any more of it until about 2003, and then we went to America, short version of Witches, crystal skull came home in our suitcase, of course, only a tiny, tiny little one. I don't have that now. That's moved on, as they do, as Shirley well knows, because my huge big one that Shirley works with is yeah, and
not.
yeah, a singing skull she's got there. Yeah, one of my big blue aragonite ones decided it was heading over to Australia to be with Shirl. Hey, there he is. There's Manny, Manica. So he travelled all over the UK with me and down to Glastonbury, and goodness only knows. Yeah, yes, indeedy. Yeah. So then I think, yeah, well, unbeknownst to me, I was obviously channeling with the crystal skull consciousness from bringing one home. Didn't really realise that that's what was going on until about 2004, and then massive download. Yeah, so 2004 really sort of kicked off a journey with crystal skulls and yeah, channeling that consciousness. Then 2008 we published, well, 2007 we were creating the crystal skull message cards, and then 2008 we published them. So that's when Mystic Mouse Publishing first started. And then since then we've done wolf cards, shadow light cards, power of dogs cards, and various other books, journals, and all sorts of things, as you now well know, animal related. Mystic Mouse actually started in 2000. Crikey, O'Reilly, we're in our 25th year this year.
It doesn't take long.
Goodness me. Yeah, and that came about because my husband and I decided we were going to take on a crystal stall. Anyway, we got into all of the new agey stuff, and my now business partner, who curiously is an ex-fiance of mine. Right. So now we're getting a bit personal. Yeah, but he just invited me and Brian over for dinner one evening and presented us with the Mystic Mouse website. He went, look, you guys need this. So that was how Mystic Mouse was born. So that's just a very whistle-stop tour of some of my very interesting and colourful past.
It's amazing. I love hearing people's stories, just how they go from being let's say a muggle, using the English term, which is not really correct, but anyway, a muggle, to this sort of being that is mystical, but certainly aware of the bigger picture of what happens energetically. So I always find it really funny, and that you never know which way it's going to go. Isn't that right, Miss Shirley?
Correct. And earlier Sharon described herself as multidimensional, which I totally align with. And this morning I was thinking about the term polymath. And I think that you and I are very much polymaths, which if people aren't sure what that is, it's not really about mathematics. You might think it's a multidimensional mathematical program, but it's not. It's about being very diverse in your understanding, interests, knowledge, paths, and being able to bring it together and think very much how they all align and connect and what's going on, rather than just doing the straight line and thinking this is it. So I think we're very polymathic. That's one of my ponderings this morning, which is probably very polymath.
Well, yeah, you know, if you can't stay on a straight line, how are you supposed to do anything, really, I guess?
Well, you don't, but that line has to curve and bend and weave. It's not about one straight line, because that's when so being the polymath is having a weaving of all these paths and directions, which you can walk along one and be connected and understanding and tuning into all the others and flip and switch and bring them all together. And I think that's what we're doing. We've known each other. Well, we met online, obviously, because Sharon's in the UK. I don't know. When I opened the shop, remember in 2009, you were sending me, I've always brought your product over, and many people around Australia now have many of those cards and books and things you mentioned over the years. But we'd met before that online on the global crystal skull. What do you call it? It was a platform before Facebook or anything like that. So we met on there, and we're in touch obviously before then, and we've met in person a couple of times in the UK, and of course in America, in Sedona. Maybe tell us a little bit about your Sedona story and things like that. That was interesting.
Well, indeed, as you know, I had a bit of a curious experience. At the what Shirley's talking about is our 10-10-10 conference. We went over to Tucson. Yeah, it must have been Tucson. Yeah, to Arizona, and we were supposed to have been getting married in the Grand Canyon, and the weather did something ridiculously stupid for the time of year, which meant that the Mayan wedding ceremony that was supposed to have happened in the Grand Canyon couldn't happen in the canyon. So we ended up having it in the hotel where the 10-10-10 Crystal Skull conference was happening. So my husband and I, essentially that's where we had our first marriage. So we had a Mayan wedding blessing. It was just hysterical, really, because, I mean, Cece, bless her, she'd set it up, and the idea was that there was going to be like 25 couples getting married. And I think by the time we got round to it, there was only 3. One couple didn't turn up, and oh my gosh, honestly, you couldn't make this up. I mean, I am known for being a catalyst. This wasn't the story that I was going to tell, but I'm going to tell it anyway, and then I'll tell you the story that I was going to tell after. So I think this must have been on the Saturday afternoon. I think the Mayan blessing was on the Sunday. So I was there with the stand and all the crystal skulls and blah, blah, blah. Short version is I was doing loads of readings, and this one lady came up, had a session, and there was a whole heap of stuff about karmic relationships and, soulmates and twin flames and this, that and the other. Anyway, long story short, I had this whole sense that no way was she in the right relationship. Well, I did not know at the time she was supposed to be somebody having the Mayan wedding blessing the following day. Well, anyway, she didn't. So she clearly must have taken what I said on board, and it was just me and Brian. So we had this it was just incredible. I mean, what CC organised for us. So there we were in a room full of essentially strangers. I only knew like about 3 people in the room, but everybody just, I mean, honestly, just, when you think about it now, it still touches my heart, because like everybody just felt like family. I mean, this was like, complete room full of strangers. And so anyway, so that was really amazing and incredible. But backtracking so this must have been the Friday. So I think it was the Friday. Yeah, it was the Friday before the conference started in full swing on the Saturday. So we had flown over with a lady and her daughter from the UK. I was designated driver. So off we went on the Friday to Sedona. Long story short, there was a really weird experience in one of the crystal shops. I had a banging headache and just honed in on a crystal skull in the cabinet. Anyway, of course, no surprise, it came back with us. So there was that. The weird thing about that was actually, though, that the guy, when we were finally decided that it was coming home, the guy said, something really peculiar happened yesterday. A woman just walked in with a bag, took out this crystal skull, sat it with that one that you've just bought, and there was obviously some sort of like channeling connection and blah, blah, blah. So there was a whole big story around that. But the story that I was going to share was what happened that evening on the way back. So we get in the car. It's dark by this point, so we've stayed in Sedona and we've had dinner, and we're now travelling back after dark. And as we start on what I call the straight road out of Sedona, so once we've sort of got out of the town and we're on the straight road, I don't know what I number it is, but whatever. Out of the left-hand side, because bearing in mind I'm on the left-hand side of the car, so I'm now on the opposite side to what I would be. So I'm sort of Anyway, so I'm looking out, I just sort of looked out the window and I was like, oh, you know, huge, beautiful, great star or planet or something twinkling and sparkling out there. And anyway, it stuck with us and it stuck with us and it stuck with us and it stuck with us. And I was like, this isn't possible, because I mean, it wasn't a completely straight road. You know, there were some twists and turns. And I'm like, but it shouldn't be there. But it didn't matter what direction we went in. It was constantly like there, right there out my window. And I wish I could remember. I wish I could remember what I said, but I just said something, asked a question, completely random, and the sat nav answered.
Wow.
And my husband had actually set the sat nav up to something like Dr. Nightmare, so it was in a real mystical and strange and weird. But I'd asked this question and it just responded, and we all just like freaked out in the car. Anyway, we get back to the hotel, probably I think about 80 or 90 miles distant from Sedona. And yeah, the star's still there. Didn't matter where we were, it was at the left-hand side of the thing. And then as we walked into the hotel, I just thought, it should not have been where it was. So I thought, I'm going to turn around and just look, because I know the blooming thing is going to be there. And of course, it was literally like right there in front of us. So we stood with the hotel behind us, and there was the star in a part of the sky that it shouldn't have been. And we all just went, well, I don't know what that's all about. And of course, you know what I'm going to say, it just went, ta-da, gone. Followed us all the way home and then gone. So, but that wasn't the end of the story. The following morning, we get up, we go down to the lobby, sitting there having breakfast, and this seemingly random gentleman comes and taps me on the shoulder and says, oh, can I have a word with you? So, and he sort of takes me off, and I, for love nor money, cannot remember the conversation exactly. But anyway, he was saying all sorts of things about the Mayans and the Mitchell hedges and this, that, and the other. And I told him about the experience last night, you know, and da-da-da-da-da. So there was all sorts of channeled stuff. And it turned out that it was doctor who became Reverend Robert Short. I had no clue that he was like UFO expert extraordinaire, and you know, and he'd just channeled all this stuff to me, and I was just like, what happened there? And I sat down to breakfast, and I just said to the guys, like, what? And they were like, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say? And I'm like, honestly, I mean, even then I could only tell them snippets of what it was, but just. And yeah, I mean, he didn't know me. I mean, I was a nobody really, as far as he was concerned, but clearly not. So then there was a whole epic unfurling of, you know, Mitchell Hedges stuff and all over the weekend. And yeah, and that was that. And we had an amazing time, and eventually came back to the UK, and my feet didn't metaphorically touch the ground for about 6 months after that.
It was pretty full on. I think we were all there for a unified experience and individual experiences just like that. And I knew that's when Sedona Boy, he's popped into my head the other morning, which is the skull. And then I started to think about Sedona, and I remembered about Bell Rock, and I put a YouTube on thinking, oh, I'll like it and put on a YouTube, and there's Bashar starting to talk about Bell Rock. I was like, hello, which is in Sedona. And then I got a whole download the other morning about what I have to do here in my new place, and everything just synchronizes and aligns and brings us together in those experiences. Because if we had people here from that conference or any of the many conferences, people would just share these amazing stories and details and synchronicities, because that's why they gather us all together. So important, you know, and I think, and I want to go back to that, what a multidimensional or polymath self, how you were able, you know, that happened, and now you can see it, you can bring the things together, and it becomes a true story, not a straight line. it's, oh, but this and this and this and this and this, which only enhances your journey and has led you into everything. You're still around doing it.
I don't know how. I've had a fair few close near misses and not being here. I've certainly had a few shamanic deaths and rebirths.
You have?
No two ways about that. But, you know, hey, there's obviously still, you know, still some stuff for me to do. So here we are.
Exactly. And now, like, I haven't been to Sedona, so I've been to the Grand Canyon and I've been around different places more before I had my sort of started my spiritual journey in earnest, really. I would say it that way. And I found the Grand Canyon was beautiful. However, I had a much deeper connection with Bryce Canyon and Zion. It just felt like that was my home. And so, you know, I would like to get to Sedona at some point.
Let's go.
Yep,
Yeah.
just putting it out there. You know,
I think Sedona, you'll probably feel. I'd be very surprised if you don't also feel like Sedona is your home. I mean, you know, similar to you, we went to the Grand Canyon as well, and it's beautiful and wonderful. But actually, I was slightly underwhelmed, sort of vibrationally. Although I did have an amazing experience with a tribal grandmother. Just, oh my goodness me, that just made me cry. But yeah, similar to you, the other national parks I felt more a calling. But Sedona, I mean, the first time we drove into Sedona, I mean, I've only been there twice. Have I? Twice? 3 times? I don't know, twice or 3 times, definitely twice, maybe 3. I don't know. I've been there many times in dream states and whatnot, but it just feels like home. And it's the weirdest thing, because I mean, I don't like sort of like high streets and touristy and busy places, which every time I've been to Sedona, it is how it is, you know, up that main drag. And yet it was like I just knew how to get there. I knew what road was going to go off of what. I knew how to get back out again. Yeah, I mean, it just feels like home. And I mean, you know, we didn't really do any of the stuff that most people would do. I didn't do any of the touristy stuff like the, you know, the medicine wheels and this, that, and the other. I didn't know none of that. But I felt even in the high street, I just felt, yeah, it's like, oh, this is. But you know, I don't know. If you went back there and tried to live there, it might be completely different. But and similar to Glastonbury in a way. You know, it's just that one road, isn't it? It's just that one road, sort of in and out, with all the shops off, and you know, there's a couple of little sidey bits, but yeah,
it's interesting.
It greets you as you drive up. It greets you, and you see the rock, and it draws you in, and there is that feeling of home. And I think it's because it's so. I mean, it's a huge portal, and it's multi-portals in a huge portal. I don't even know how to describe them. So that feeling of home, because it's an entryway to different star points and constellations and energies that part of us has come through somehow in some way. So I think that gives us that, because it's very interesting. I don't feel I would ever live there. Like you said, it's not a place that I would live, but to be there and have that experience was, and of course we had the tornado, we had the, you know, it's amazing.
You know, it's funny how places do that to you. I lived in India for a while back in 2010, up near the Dalai Lama's temple, and I found that while I didn't have a deep connection in that space necessarily, I just found that everywhere I went, I could find where I needed to be. I found I didn't do the main stuff there. I just wandered down little alleyways and, you know, just always seemed to find my way back to where I needed to be. Never ran across what I'd call any nasty people as far as, you know, me goes. Everyone's out there, you know, worrying about their stuff being stolen and this and that. I didn't worry about any of that, and just felt, I'm going to say, at home. I think having a view to the Dwalada Ranges and the valleys beyond and all the rest of it, it really was I'm just putting sort of two and two together to say, you know, that's your experience in Sedona. This was mine in India. And I remember sitting there in a thunderstorm one night out on my balcony, and there was lightning going down over the Dalai Lama's temple, and it sort of looked like it hit it, and then there was this beautiful shield of energy, and that's when I realized how protected energetically the temple is. And once I saw that, I went, right, now I know I'm in the space to be where I need to be right at this point in time. And I think that sounds very much like your Sedona adventures and Shirley's, and another friend of mine that's been over there as well, same sort of thing. It's just, you go into there and it's just absorbs you. It just improves you.
It's partly why my lodge is this colour.
Right.
It just feels like, you know, one of the Navajo caves. You know, I call it my little cave. It's actually for group purposes. It's actually named itself White Elk Lodge. No surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when it was built last summer, and the guys put the plaster on the walls, I was like, it needs to stay that plaster colour, because it just feels like a little cave, and it just reminds me of Antelope Canyon. I don't know whether when you were doing Bryce Canyon and all the rest of it, whether you went to Antelope Canyon, but that was just, oh.
Yeah, I don't think we did. It's not ringing a bell. And we were there, and what I found amazing around Bryce and Zion was especially, I think it was Bryce, it was under snow. So we had that beautiful red earth colour that was snow-capped on top and down around. It was just, yeah, I have an interesting connection from, you know, your White Elk, with one of my guides who is a Native American Indian, pre-white man, in his words, and he just had this deep affinity for his bit of country where he came from, which is more South America, and yet, you know, I got there and I just sat there and I went, really, I'm on a schedule, but I'd be really happy just to keep sitting here. And I actually bought a Canyons Land CD while I was there. It just felt right, and quite often I listen to that, and it just resonates through me, you know, every time I play it. Lost it for a while and then refound it again not that long ago, so I've been listening to it again.
Can I read something that Sharon wrote? And when we've talked about White Elk, I don't know if you've mentioned that Sharon was well known as White Elk Woman.
That's in the story. Yeah, there's detail of that in the story. Yep.
And I would like to read the message card for Money Manaka, who is the blue skull we showed before. He's been with me now for a little while, long while. I don't know, it's been a few years, mustn't it? And this is the message Sharon wrote. We all contributed some of our skulls to this book that was written by a fellow crystal skull worker. It's a deck of crystal skull cuts. And here's number 10, Universe. And Manaka he's a universal avatar. And this is the message that Sharon shared via and on behalf of Manaka. The universe is a living entity. It is part of you and all that is. Treat it with respect and honour its timeless presence every day, every night, every light year, every epoch, eon and age. Although I am ageless and timeless. I am not just your earth, but many earths and stars and more, much more beyond your awareness. I come to you today to speak of multiverses and expansiveness. Carry me in your heart, for you too are a universal avatar. Forever spread your love and light to the universe as I do to you. Love, light, joy, laughter. All these things are you. All these things are me. We are the universe, timeless, expansive, ever-flowing, ever-growing. There is nothing outside of yourself that is not you, that is not me, the universe. White Elk Woman. I love that because it's really everything we've spoken of, and that's why we have these experiences and these journeys and this heightened energetic connection. What's that?
Absolutely beautiful.
I love it.
That's really weird listening to you read that back. I mean, I've not read that message for years and years, and it's like I'm listening to you reading it going, really? Did I really channel that? Really? Where did that come from? Yeah, but completely resonated with, yeah, where I'm at now as well on my journey. It's just, yeah, Incredible.
Yeah, I think once people start to get their head around this, we are all connected to all things at all times, multidimensionally, and all the rest of it. I absolutely, totally get that whole space. And I quite often use the Marvel movies to tell people, you know, if you want to get an understanding of the multiverse and how things can interact and be multiple times at once, look at the Marvel movies. You know, Doctor Strange, there's Ant-Man and Wasp series that goes into the multiverse, and you know, but the Doctor Strange one's really good, especially the second one, because he's actually going through different dimensions where he's the same person, yet one person is really, really good, one person's not a very nice person, and there's still connections between one, he wants this person as his wife, and this one she hates him, and this one's this, and he never actually gets together with her, yet he's dimensionally traveling through all these existences with the same sort of people. So it's really, you know, for a visual for people, I'm a visual person, and so for visuals for people, that helps them just get their head around it a little bit better than when you know, just say, well, there is a multiverse out there, and you know, connect into it, you know, because what Shirley just read there makes sense and is really, really beautiful.
Let's talk about the power of dogs and the teaching of.
And you're not allowed to go woof.
I didn't hear.
That's okay. You didn't need to hear it, Shirley. We got it. The power of dogs.
Oh dear, power of dogs. So, oh crikey, where do I start with that? Yeah, I've left mine sitting on the table over there, so I'm glad you've got yours there. I heard about Becky Shuttleworth, who is the main author. I am co-author. I heard about her a few years ago. Yeah, there they are. Look, oh, popsicle. Yeah, so I heard of her a few years ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. And I can't remember if I had encountered her before the news article or if it was when the news article came out. But anyway, another long story short, she had rescued lots and lots of dogs, and at the time was living with 22 of them. They were all sort of behaviourally challenged, or pretty much all of them were. Many of them last chance aggression, sort of real bad behaviour sort of dogs. Some of them had come over from abroad, some of them were from this country. And anyway, so I sort of clocked her. We met on Facebook, had a couple of conversations, and then what year are we in now? I tell you, timelines. So would be 2023. So a couple of years ago now, not quite. I think it was in the May of 2023. She rang me to say, my dogs have been talking to me. Yeah, I think there's probably a book. Can you help? I was like, well, yeah, I'm sure I can, you know, we can do something, no problem. So anyway, so I said to her, well, start sending me some pictures of the dogs, because I'll get Lorenzo to work his magic, and you know, we'll create something. So Lorenzo started to work his magic, and he started to send me the pictures of the dogs over on the cards that Shirley's just been showing us. Yeah, the dog started talking to me. And I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. I haven't done sort of mediumship and talking to dead animals for a few years. Oh no, I don't think this wasn't what I signed up for. I was just, you know, going to write the first introductory pages of the book. But anyway, yeah, I ended up channeling all the messages on the cards, which Becky then subsequently validated were, you know, sort of spot on with what she knew of her dogs and what had happened to them and their characters and behaviours. And yeah, and so we ended up co-authoring the Power of Dogs book and Oracle card set. So yeah, you know, I started to question my sanity again at that point. But that was really yeah, so really the last 2 years I've been very much sort of channeling with that canine consciousness. But of course, I mean, that's just a human label that we put to something that suits us at the time, because that's what's relevant in our life from a sort of a physical, tangible perspective, really. So, you know, and I've channeled with all sorts of consciousness, angel, crystal skulls, you know, dogs, other animals, birds, trees, plants, you know, people. And ultimately it is everything and all that is. So it's still only really our human nature that says, well, that's a cat consciousness or that's a dog consciousness, but it's all coming through with the same sort of theme message, really, is that we all want the world to be a better place. Us humans need to wake up to a bit more than we've already woken up to.
I can tell you that,
and it's all about love.
It is. It absolutely. I can tell you that in this issue 53, there is. It's very much that. It's all based around humans trying to understand their humanness, and that we are not the be all and end all of this planet. You know, animals are so much smarter than us. And that's where it comes in. One of the interesting things about animal consciousness, I've not had a lot to do with snakes, for example. Now we live with them around our house. You know, we're on a bit of land, so you know we see them and we don't interact with them as such. We let them go on their merry little way. But I was at one of our writers, Freya's place over in Western Australia, and she's got this beautiful snake that is a python that was wandering around the house, which it does, you know, from the tree to the top of the tank and all the rest of it. And we were sitting there doing the workshop, and I looked up and I could see the snake there, and I went, oh. And then I looked at Freya and I said, your snake just asked me if I could help it down off the fish tank. And she goes, well, do it. And I said, well, okay. And so I said, I looked at the snake and I said, now, you know, consciously, are you sure that's what you want me to do? And it's like, yes. So I stood up, literally put my hands up. The snake just crawled into my hands so I could lift it up, bring it down. And then it sort of slithered around and sat on my shoulder for a while. And, you know, I'd never communicated with a snake before in my life, and he was the first one. So, yeah, I think he was very eloquent in the way he spoke too. It was, you know, it was very formal. Compared to, you know, trying to connect with my dog at the moment to try and sort out a few issues, and that's just like scatterbrain. It's like chum, 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 chum. It's never concentrating on one thing long enough to get a straight answer. So yeah, but it is important, and I think that this issue really highlights the importance of communication, love, and understanding that we are humans, and we don't, as much as we think we own the place, we don't. We share the place, and we're supposed to share it in the right way.
Don't commune.
Exactly.
Well, and I think Becky would probably say, so I'm gonna blame it on her and say that this isn't me speaking about your scattered dog. She would say, well, mirror that behavior back, and there's probably a big element of that's where your brain's going right now, all over here, there, everywhere. And
potentially, yes, potentially I would understand that absolutely. The difference will be in the way I see it. Her sense of freedom, her sense of personal freedom it's huge, because she grew up, she's a rehome sort of semi-rescue, And she grew up without any rules, without anything else. She just had access to run on 40 acres. No one knew where she went all day, every day. And unfortunately, the previous owner taught her that when you put a lead on, you pull full strength because you're pulling him on his bike. And so when we're walking, if she pulls full strength, it'll pull us over, especially on the dirt roads. So just try to, she's definitely getting better. It's just a slow process of understanding from both camps here, you know, absolutely both camps. So yeah, but she's great. She features in the Edsword this issue too with, you know, she's at a brewery with me, she's on a boat with us, she's, you know, having fun. So yeah, it's pretty gorgeous, I have to admit. Now, Shirley, I know we're pushing our time boundaries now. Would you like to share the kin information, please? And also, we've got to talk about your wolf story. You asked me to remind you about the wolf story, Sharon. So we'll get to that in a minute. So, Shirley, it's all yours.
I haven't done kin numbers, but I've looked at Sharon's birth numbers, and this year I just want to tell you that you're particularly coming back to something, because we're in a nine year, and you were born in 1971, which is also a 9 year. And so for me, it's a return for you in order to complete a few things to bring in the new projects and get other things going. So it's not just completing, and it's certainly not beginning. It's complete in order to prepare to get going with the new things. And of course, you are all about, by your birthday, the 3rd of June 1971, you are all about the body, mind, the spirit, consciousness, bringing it all together on that psychical, spiritual, phenomenal, polymath plane of existence. And it's really shows how you think and feel and work hard on understanding the information that comes in, whether it's animals, creatures, people, whatever it is. You bring it all together because that's what you're here, because you are a great connector. You are a centre point connector. Like, I'm sort of like that. We have very similar numbers when I look at our birthdays and break them down. And so that gives us the ability to connect to people globally and bring things together and do all that. And so, so you're in that lots of 3, lots of 6, lots of 9, bringing it the power of logic, the power of the spiritual, psychic, mental phenomena all coming together. It's really big and quite important in this end of 24, end of 25 year. So your numbers are all the top grid, basically. They fill the top grid of the number. Sharon knows numerology well, but her numbers fill the top grid, and they encompass also the body, mind, and spirit. So she is on those higher planes of consciousness and multiverse, multidimensional, all of that, tuning in and understanding and connecting on behalf and for the people and the animals and the creatures of the earth and beyond. And of course, a lot of overthinking often gets her into trouble and brings her energy down, and then she splatters and scatters a bit. Bring myself and work to raise myself back up.
What an interesting term. What did you say? Splatters and shatters. That's just...
As Spirit says it is. And she will understand. Like a puddle, and then you bring yourself into a beautiful pool, and then you form back up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, you know, I could validate all of that, but we'd be here for another 10 minutes with me explaining to you how utterly spot on that is. But yeah, all of it
Good
spot
thing.
on from start to finish.
More connections and more conscious. And we've got to talk. You just have to briefly, they're telling me, speak about the conscious creatures, because there's more conscious connections, and the conscious creatures want to speak about that, if you want to talk about that for a minute, and also the teachings of tea. Because, look, I picked a card out of the Power of Dogs deck, and it's got a tea stuck on it.
Oh,
I don't even know what that is. It's come out of the deck like that. It's stuck there. So this card has come with the tea stuck on it from Bert, about moving through sadness and loss, basically. And it's got a T, so it's the Sharon would be, they would like her to talk about the teachings book as well.
What I think is funny is the T pink is virtually almost the same pink as your scarf, Sharon.
And I have not worn this for I don't know how long. And I thought, do you know what? I need a bit of colour. I needed turquoise and pink. And
beautiful. And also, Shirley mentioned that the T represents 3. And in your birth numbers, there was mind, body, spirit. Mind, body, spirit. So there's 3. So it's that alignment, that perfect alignment of everything working together. Anyway, fire away, Sharon. Let's find out a little bit more about animal consciousness.
So Shirley said apparently I need to mention the Conscious Creatures Oracle.
Yeah.
So I think that is mentioned in the article as well. But yeah, I mean, the way that happened was that I had to have major surgery back in 2019. I won't bore you with what happened before that and leading up to that, but essentially I had to go back in and have pretty much everything removed. So, which was, you know, on the back end of one of my many nearly not here moments. But yeah, I mean, I woke up in recovery and the first thing I saw on my mobile phone was the gorgeous white lion picture. This picture turned up when I'd got out of surgery, and I've basically created a canvas out of it now, and it sits on my wall. But each day a different animal turned up from a photograph that Lorenzo had, so Lorenzo, my business partner, had taken over the years, and he just was working his creative wizardry and just incredible. So a few months later, of course, and much channeling later, ta-da, the Conscious Creatures book with all the animals in was born, and the Conscious Creatures Oracle cards. I've just pulled a brand new pack out of here, so they've still got their what's it on. But yeah, I mean, I don't know while we're here whether you wanted to. I'm not going to shuffle them. I don't know whether while we're here you wanted to just either one of you give me a number, and let's just finish off with a message from the Conscious Creatures just to see what they. 12. Oh, there's that 3 again, Shell. So that's what the pages look like. So it's squirrel. So 1 and 2 adding up to 3, and squirrel wisdom says, whether you love me or find me an annoyance, I serve a greater purpose than you realise. I know you watch me, but do you recognise and understand the important lessons I bring? Squirrels know how to set boundaries and to let others know when they come too close. They will tenaciously chase after what they want and delight in finding creative solutions to the obstacles in their way. They are fearless acrobats who will leap into the unknown, confident that they will land perfectly. But perhaps they are best known for hoarding the multitude of nutritious morsels that sustain them through lean times, such as acorns, certain nuts, fruit, vegetables, leaves, bark, and even some shrubs and flowers. A reminder to be mindful of and to manage the resources you will need to achieve your goals. And then the message is, I am agile, quick to move, tenacious and determined. I make my preparations, then leap and trust I will thrive. So that's obviously for you as well as all of our readers, listeners, watchers. But interestingly, look, couldn't make it up. He was saying about 3, 6 and 9, all my numbers. It's on page 42. So there's your 6.
There's your 6.
So,
is there an 18 in there?
Sorry?
Is there an 18 in there?
Of course there's an 18 in there. It goes up to 42. There's 42.
Well, we haven't seen the book here. Shirley, do you have the cards for this yet?
Yeah. I've still got a few left.
Beautiful.
So 18 is turtle. So turtle wisdom says, I understand the importance of following the cycles of the sun and moon. I travel thousands of miles to leave my legacy and know that my every effort is always worthwhile. I mean, you couldn't make this up, because I've literally, the last 2 days, have been talking about legacy. So, I mean, talk about everybody should listen to everybody else's message. I always say this to people. It doesn't matter if I'm reading for one person or 100. It's always, you know, relevant to whoever's watching, listening, or reading. So, I feel safe and strong. Turtle medicine has long been known to represent longevity and good health. Many turtles can outlive humans. Their shells are a symbol of protection. Mother turtles return to the same place to lay eggs every year, and even if some babies don't make it, turtles' efforts still greatly assist the ecosystem. Turtles' lengthy journeys can teach us that whilst you may not see the direct results, for every good intentioned action, there is an equally beneficial outcome. Turtle moves easily between land, the physical body, and water, emotions, and reminds us that we are all interconnected in the ocean of the unconscious, exactly what we've been talking about this evening. And the affirmation is, I hold a higher vision. I am ready to create a legacy and start the journey of sharing it far and wide. I didn't point this out on Shirley's one, but we've got, I am an evolutionary, or evolutionary, however you want to pronounce that. Squirrel is a communicator, so.
Lovely.
Yeah, so there you go, whistle stop of the conscious creatures. But yeah, I mean, they're just, I mean, that's what the back of the cards look like. But I mean, the book's got, you know, it's got numerology, colours, chakras, all about the symbols. And there's a whole section in the front before you even get to the animals. So anybody can pick these up and work with them. And they're just, you know, I might be biased, but I love them.
Well, that's it.
It is amazing.
Very. All right. Well, look, at this point in time, we're out of time. So we're going to have to wind things up. So people can read a lot more detail about your story in issue number 53, which is the March-April 2025 issue, at supernalmagazineaustralia.com.au. And we have introduced this year a new subscription system, so people can see the magazine free while it's current, and then they can pay a small subscription fee and get access to all our back issues and our podcasts and our videos and all that sort of thing through our YouTube channel. So, so there's plenty of opportunities and ways for people to see what Supernal's offering. Very much like your reading, we're putting it out there, and to see it grow, to create enlightenment and awareness of people's stories. And that's been the whole intent of Supernal since we started. So I think that's matches beautifully. So Sharon, if people wanted to email you or contact you through the website, what's the best website?
Yeah, mysticmouse.com.
Oh, beautiful.
Is the website. That's easy enough to remember. Mystic as in Mystic Meg, and Mouse as in Mickey Mouse. So mysticmouse.com. Yeah, and then you can contact me through the website in info@mystic-mouse.co.uk is probably the easiest one, or Sharon at mystic-mouse.co.uk.
I'm sure.
Either way, it's on the website. The website's currently in transition at the moment, but yeah, it won't be long before the new one is up there. But yeah, mysticmouse.com.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your stories and for supporting Supernal, because it's these stories that people, you know, sort of need to hear, you know, in the way it is. So thank you very much. To Shirley. Oh, nice.
Very enjoyable, as usual.
As usual. So we do get some amazing content for our interviews. So so thank you, Shirley, and we'll talk soon. In the meantime, have a Supernal month, everybody, and we'll catch you all on the other side.